In this video, we're going to be talking about wedding myths and why you don't need to do them in this day and age. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, hi, my name is Jess and I am a wedding planner here in Los Angeles, California. In this video, we're going to be talking about wedding myths and why you don't need to do them in this day and age. I mean, let's be honest, it's 2021. Things are changing. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago. So let's dive in, shall we? First up, we have your wedding party. So a number one rule that I hear a lot of people contemplating about is if they should have bridesmaid and groomsmen on different sides. And I feel like we are transcending into it being more of a gender neutral norm where it doesn't matter if you're a female or male or whatever you identify yourself is to be on a certain side of the party. Like if you are best friends with the bride, or you have a best friend that you want on your side versus it being on your fiance's side based on gender, I don't think that should apply, and that it should be based on who you are comfortable with being on your side, because you want someone who's been there for you for quite a while. That's why they're such an important part of your life. You want them to be by your side. So just because they're a certain gender does not need to mean that they have to go on one side or the other. And I feel like in 2021, or in this 21st century, that we are, moving that phase out. Another one is people like the bride and groom paying for the wedding party's attire, like the tux and the bridal dresses. You don't have to do that. I think it depends on your budget, but you can definitely talk about that with you and your fiance or whoever's paying for the wedding. Third part to the wedding party tip is not having a wedding party at all. Some people actually don't want the stress of having a whole wedding party and just want to keep it between the two of them, which is you and your fiance. So eliminating, having a wedding party at all could also be an option. Number two, we have the dress. You don't have to exactly wear a dress, and it does not have to be white either. Some people actually like wearing a pantsuit, and that's completely okay. It's whatever makes you feel comfortable. Especially, let's say, maybe it's a gay marriage and maybe it's two women getting married. Likely, both of them might not want to wear a gown. Maybe one of them wants to wear a white pantsuit, and that's completely okay. Another point to your attire is you do not have to wear a veil. Sometimes veils can be a pain in the butt, especially being outdoors with the wind flying everywhere and it ruining your hair. But I think it really depends on how important it is for you to wear a veil. Some brides love having a veil, and that's completely fine. And then other brides don't want a veil, and that's totally okay. But remember that whatever it is you decide to wear at your wedding, you definitely want to feel comfortable in what you're going to be in for a whole day. Number three, we have a whole year engagement. It does not matter if you are engaged for a couple of months or maybe you're engaged for 2 years. I think it depends on what you're completely comfortable with. If you want to be engaged for 4 years, that's totally up to you. If you want to you can't wait to get married and you want to elope, or you want to have a wedding done within a couple of months, that is very, very stressful and time consuming, but it definitely can be done. It just depends on budget and everything and how much you want a part of your wedding, but I digress. And I think that when it comes to, how long you should be engaged, there was definitely a point in time where people felt like they had to get married within that year that they were engaged. So typically if you were engaged, let's say for Valentine's Day, then you would probably expect an invitation to be coming in September of that year. And I think that has completely thrown out the door, especially with COVID. You do not need to be engaged for a certain period of time. It's totally whatever you and your fiance feel comfortable with and when you guys are ready to tie the knot. Number four is stealing the name. And a lot of my couples have actually kept their maiden name. They haven't legally changed their name to what their married name should be, and they've kept it as just leaving it the way it is and having their maiden name and not changing it to the legal name. And I think that's definitely a topic that you need to talk about with your fiance to make sure him and her, you guys are, you know, on the same page with everything. But I don't think that you have to be pressured into changing your name if you don't want to. Number 5 is seeing each other before the wedding. Now this is totally on your beliefs, whether you want to experience what it's like when he or she sees you walk down the aisle, or you guys want to be able to have a first look option, which is seeing each other prior to the wedding, and you have that intimate moment where you see both of you guys all dressed up and dolled up and have those photo opportunities. There's definitely pros and cons to having a first look versus having a first touch, and a first touch is basically, you know, having that intimate moment where you guys can touch each other's hands, but you're not seeing each other, what each other looks like, but you are probably praying before the ceremony starts. And it's totally up to you, whichever one you want to do, but it doesn't have to be that, you know, you cannot see your bride-to-be or your husband-to-be before the wedding. You can definitely have a first look if you choose to do so. The 6th one is the typical reception timeline. What that looks like is you requiring to have champagne toast, you know, the father of the bride saying some kind of speech, or maybe the groom saying a speech. You do not have to say speeches if you do not want to. I can totally attest to that for my couples who are introverts and don't like to publicly speak. Another thing is having a garter toss. That depends on like family things, but cultural stuff, if you kind of don't want to do some type of cultural things, then that is something to definitely talk about with you and your fiance about. If you want to remove some of those things from the reception, there's nothing that's set in stone that says you have to do those things. You don't always have to have a bouquet toss and see who's the next person that's possibly going to get married next. The 7th one is spending a certain amount of money on your wedding. What that looks like is if you want to spend $10,000 for your wedding, then that is the amount of money that you want to spend. And if you want to spend and have the money to be spending a much larger amount of money, like 100K or 80K, 50K, going more in the middle to a 30K or 40K, the most average type of wedding, at least where I'm at in SoCal, could be about $40,000 for an average wedding. And that is looking at 2019 stats. We can't attest 2020 because of the pandemic, but what I will say is that you do not have to spend a certain amount of money on your wedding or feel pressured that you have to amount to spending, I need to be spending $40,000 for this dream wedding. There are certain things that can go around it, and there's definitely things that you can cut out that you don't think is important a part of your wedding day, and there's other things that you can put more money to that you do feel is really, really important. And the very last one that I will say is going DIY isn't always cheaper. Sometimes if you think that you can do a project and you might think this isn't going as well as I thought it'd be and I probably should hire a professional, then you might be spending a lot more time and money on that DIY project as opposed to hiring a professional. So when you really, really think about the things that you want to DIY, make sure that you feel like if it did turn for the worse, that you will be able to recover the costs and that you wouldn't be bummed out as far as losing out on the money if it didn't work out. And if it did work out, that's amazing. But I wouldn't shortchange certain vendors just because you think maybe you can DIY it. There are certain brides who are wonderful at DIYing and who can definitely do it, and there's others who might feel like it's a total mess and I really shouldn't have, and I should have hired a professional. That being said, another tip is definitely hiring a professional on the most important elements of your wedding day. So the things that you really, really care about that you do not want to mess up. And so if photos and videos are so important for you, then you definitely have to hire someone who is a professional photographer versus like someone that you find that's a friend of a friend of a friend who's done photography, you know, here and there, but it's not the profession. I would definitely hire a professional to be able to capture those beautiful moments, because you're gonna look back at those memories and you don't want to have any regrets at that point, or missing certain special moments that didn't get captured. And going off of DIYing, it is okay to plan your wedding yourself, but I don't think it's okay to feel like you have to be in charge of your wedding on the day of your wedding. You should definitely hire a wedding planner or coordinator that specializes in wedding management. And what wedding management is it's kind of the term of a day of or month of planner. I do not believe in a day of coordinator. I do not think you can simply hand off to somebody and a project that you've been working months on end from and expect them to execute it in a day, it definitely takes more time to do that. So I call it wedding management, and so to have a wedding planner who specializes in wedding management will definitely be a benefit for you, so that way you can let them know, here's what I've planned, does everything match, or you do see any red flags, and let's fix it now before the wedding approaches, so that way you guys can get things done in an efficient time, and it will handle a lot less stress and a lot less weight on your shoulders, and that will probably be a lot better than hiring a family member to do the wedding and take over that side for you. Because if you do have a loving family member who's taking on the wedding as being a wedding planner or the coordinator, or taking that stress off of you, that could be great, but they're not being able to enjoy your wedding with you in those special moments. So I would always try to convince people to be able to hire a wedding planner or somebody who you don't know, that can be able to guide you in the right direction and make sure that they are for you and their best interest is for you as the client, to make sure that your day is seamless. Alright guys, and that is all I have for you today in this video. If you loved it, please make sure to give big thumbs up, and if you want to see more content, you can definitely check out more of my videos on my YouTube channel and subscribe. I would love to have you a part of the Not Just a Planner family, and I will see you guys at the next one. Bye!